Welcome to another episode of the Prenup Podcast. Today, I'm actually flipping the script, and my wonderful friend Alex, who is the head of growth at Goodword, is going to be the one interviewing me, which is very weird and very uncomfy because I'm so used to interviewing other people.
Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here today with Lily and finally giving her the chance to tell her story on everything that's behind What If and a podcast and a couple other exciting things that she's working on right now.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe just to get us started, can you give me your most controversial take on prenups, the one that makes people the most uncomfortable?
Yeah. So the number one thing that I've been hearing from people is they don't know how to approach the subject with their partner. Every single event we've thrown, that is like the first thing people say is, I want one. How do I approach my partner on a prenup?
Regardless of it's like a
Male,
boyfriend. Yeah.
woman, yeah, LGBTQ, like everything. It is, I know I want one. I don't know how to approach my partner. And I'm trying to destigmatize the word itself because what's also funny is so many people I go in and I'm like, oh, I'm building a company for prenups. They're like, you have to rename prenup. It can't be called a prenup. It has to be called a partnership document or like, a love agreement. And I'm like, no. We're not changing the word because it's actually legally what it is. The reality is we need to destigmatize the word prenup, just like we've destigmatized a lot of other words out there in the past. Prenup is the most generous and gracious thing you can do for your partner because you're actually just laying down the foundation of what your financial future is together. It's early financial planning.
Totally.
Yeah.
I guess kind of on that topic, what do you think it takes to destigmatize a word, a
Yeah.
topic, a belief, and make it
Talking about it more, right? So like having it be in conversation, wearing these hats that say prenup, making kind of not light of it, but I would say making it more approachable and just part of the marriage process, right? Like my goal and my dream is that a prenup becomes just part of okay, you and I, we talk about it well before we've got engaged, maybe third or fourth date. We say, what do you think about them? We don't need to get into the weeds of it, but like, are you pro prenup? Are you not pro prenup? Okay,
yeah.
why? By the time we get engaged, we both know we're pro prenup. And then when it comes to actually getting our prenup done together, it becomes just a part of the process, just like going and getting your Zolo website, going on Over the Moon and putting all the things that you want, on your registry, figuring out where you want to get married, what dress you want to wear. It just becomes like a part of the story.
I love it. Okay, awesome. Would love to get a little into kind of your origin story and my prenups. Of all the things you could build, coming
Yes.
from Capital One and the hospitality industry, can
Yeah.
you tell everyone listening how you landed on this topic?
Yeah. So my parents went through a 6-year divorce. I was 2 when they split up and I was 8 by the time that they finalized their divorce. And when they finalized their divorce, they both had to file for bankruptcy.
Wow.
So my mom and I moved to New Jersey. My dad moved back in with his parents at 48 years old in Connecticut. And the divorce just destroyed them. And it hurt a lot of people around them because I always say this, but divorce turns the best people into the worst versions of themselves. And they were shells of themselves for those years. They really went at it. My mom went through 5 sets of lawyers.
Wow.
And then a few years ago, while I was at Capital One, my dad got sick with cancer. And it was like, he got sick in March and he got sick with lung cancer. And it was supposed to be like a fun side of Death Project. Like all the end of life conversations started happening.
Okay.
I'm like so silly. I'm like, how do I still get emotional about this? But yeah, he got really sick and it was like a fun thing actually. He came up with the name of the company, WhatIf. He used to be an ad guy. He was so cheeky. He was like, oh, if you had it on a subway station, you'd have WhatIf ... And he said like really naughty things like, what if ... your wife's cheating on you with her personal trainer? Or like, what if ... your friend slipping like his friend's wife? Like he had all these really funny sayings. And then for me, really what happened was I didn't know the extent of how hard their divorce was. Like I knew it was hard, but when you're a kid, you're super resilient, right?
Yeah.
Like you just bounce back. And so many of us have parents that have gone through a divorce. And it's just like kind of a normal thing these days, which is not great, but you don't really think about it till later. And all these things started coming up when he got sick. I had no idea that, for example, we had actually gotten evicted from our apartment. I thought my mom just decided to move to New Jersey. I had no idea that we like genuinely got like handed a letter, had to be out of the apartment by a certain date. And so for me, right, I left on a Friday to go visit my dad for a weekend. On a Sunday, I was dropped off to New Jersey. So I like was pulled out of my school, didn't say bye to anyone because I didn't know I was leaving, and started like a new life and a new school and everything. Thankfully, I was in second grade and I had the greatest teacher ever, Mrs. Ketterson, who was a godsend, who like made the adjustment for me. But, it was really destabilizing and I never really reflected on it
Yeah.
truly. And then my dad had lived in his apartment for years. And all of a sudden he's living in like some, small, like
Yeah.
random Connecticut. And a few other things had come up, right? He ended up having a heart attack halfway through the divorce. He ended up having to get triple bypass surgery.
Oh my God.
And just like the stress and everything in his early 40s, like who gets triple bypass surgery in their early 40s?
Yeah.
And then, a few other things happened. The craziest of all was that this was like the Beanie Baby era, was he went to buy me a Beanie Baby. He did a dumb dad thing, but I was 8, but he left me in the car alone, which he shouldn't have done, but I was sleeping. He didn't want to disturb me on our way to Connecticut. And a mom from Sacred Heart saw me in the car. And basically my mom was able to use the fact that he had left me in the car alone in court to finalize their divorce. So my dad got charged with child neglect, which is crazy because my dad was this like larger than life, old school, like warm, inviting teddy bear of a
Yeah.
human. He would never hurt me in any way, shape, or form. And it was just the most wild and outlandish thing to be accused of. But it had happened. And technically, in the state of New York, legally, you were not allowed to leave a child unattended in a car.
Wow.
And my mom, I don't even fault her for it because for a while I was really upset. And then you have to understand that she was just trying to get the out of New York and get out of her marriage, right? And if someone hands you a silver bullet, you don't think about the long-term repercussions. You just want out. And she was in so much debt. She was stuck in New York in a city that she couldn't afford. She couldn't provide for us. And she needed a way out. And this was her way out. And unfortunately, the long-term consequences of that were my dad never ended up being financially stable the rest of his life. He couldn't even get a job, like a simple job, because he had child neglect on his record. No one's going to ask you why you have child neglect on your record. They just see it. And so for me, all these things started coming to light. And I realized that neither of my parents are bad people. They're actually the two coolest, greatest humans in
Your
the
mom is the
world.
best.
She's the best.
Never had the chance to meet your dad, but
Yeah, my mom's the best. And like my dad was the best. And so what was crazy, this was like, a side of desk thing to keep him entertained. And also I did see the need for this. And at the time, this was going to be a direct to consumer product. And then he died really quickly. Like he got sick in March and he died on September 1st. And I shelved it. I couldn't deal. The idea wasn't as fun without him. And then I got promoted at Capital One and all these things happen and life gets in the way.
yeah.
And so if you've ever lost a parent, I'm an only child and this is something that I really wish someone would solve for. So
Yeah.
for whoever's listening, when you lose a parent, like the amount of crap that you have to do from just their taxes, their social security, their homes, their wills, their like all these pieces that you just don't even think about. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is actually a second job.
Totally.
Just trying to break down someone's estate. And my dad didn't have much. So I can't even imagine what that would be like for somebody that had a lot. Like, I don't know. Shelved it. And then a few years later, a lot of other personal things happened in my life. I had a really big breakup. I had a lot of time to like reflect. And I got to a point where I was like, I don't need a mortgage. I don't need maternity leave. I'm in my 30s. If I'm going to blow my whole life up, this is the time to do it when the only person now that my dad's gone that I am financially responsible for is myself.
And this is the idea and the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, 110%. Because at the same time that this is going down, I am in my mid 30s now. I have started to watch my first set of friends go through divorces and it is awful. And the craziest part about it is it's 30 years later and the exact same thing is happening to them, which is really good people becoming the worst versions of themselves because they're just so angry. People's emotions in divorce are not their emotions when they get married, right? I always try to remind people of this. A prenup is a negotiation. A divorce is a litigation. And so often more than not, the people that are having the worst divorces, it's almost always rooting back to financial resentment. There's a lot of reasons people get divorced. Like almost everything could be tracked back to not being aligned on like what your future looks like,
Yep.
right? Especially like couples get married, you're a dual income, no kid couple, right? It's great. It's so
Yeah.
fun. Like you're like, wow, I'm doing well. I'm living this life, especially in
Yeah.
New York. And then you have one kid and you're like, okay, we're both still working, dual incomes, one kid. Kids are expensive.
Totally.
And you have a second kid. And then you're like, oh, wait, should
And
one
then
of
your
us?
school
Yeah,
activities, everything
exactly.
else.
And then should one of us stay home
Yeah.
and take care of the kid? So then all of a sudden you might be a one income, two kid family. And it's like, wait, the math's not mathing.
Totally.
So it's like, how do you set yourself up for success?
I guess kind of related to that, in terms of also what you said about sort of divorce being litigation, prenups being a negotiation.
Yeah.
What do you think most people get wrong the second they hear the word prenup?
That it's a negative thing or that it's planning for divorce.
Yep.
I think that is like one of what's cool about right now, specifically in time, is I think we're finally getting away from that.
Yeah.
But historically it has been, oh, they got a prenup because they're obviously going to get divorced, or they got a prenup because one person is loaded and they served the other person a prenup.
Yep.
That's not the case, right? Like every single person has a prenup. Every single person has one. It's just either the one that we decide as a couple or it's the one that the state decides for us. And so another misconception is like a lot of people, especially in New York, they're like, oh, well, obviously I'll just get 50% if we don't get a prenup. No, that's not true. It's not true at all, actually.
Okay, I have a sort of hot take question for you, but is someone who refuses to even discuss prenup, is that
Red flag.
red flag?
Red flag.
Yep.
Red flag. That's like if you don't want to talk about sex or money. Like, come on. It like might be a taboo, but like you have to talk about it. And if you can't talk about it now, you want to know when it's going to be hard to talk about? After you have a kid and your whole body's destroyed. Like,
Totally.
what?
Tell me about What If.
Yeah.
What is it? What does it do that a traditional divorce attorney doesn't do?
Yeah. So WhatIf is a B2B platform. We're selling it into lawyers themselves because I realize that there's an opportunity in the marketplace right now that is not being served. And I'm out there hawking everyone, telling them to get prenups. And I don't have the right solution to offer them, right?
Yep.
Like currently in the market landscape, there's 3 or 4 direct to consumer prenup companies. They're ranging from $2,000 to $5,000 for a prenup, but that is genuinely a direct to consumer prenup.
Yep.
There's not a lot of opportunity for nuance, et cetera. Or you have, on the other hand, like $20,000 to $25,000 prenup directly with a lawyer. Okay. So you have a G-Wagon and you have an old Toyota Camry. No offense to Toyota Camrys, but that's like kind of the range you have right now. There's nothing in the middle. An Audi, I always like to compare it to, is an Audi. It's a nice car. It's not an extremely nice car. It's not a lower car. It is a great vehicle and it is a great product, right? That is what I'm solving for, which is we are getting the right lawyers on this platform to give you as a consumer the opportunity to find a wonderful lawyer that matches what you need.
Yep.
And then we're connecting you with that lawyer and we're giving you a beautiful intake process, because what's crazy to me is the tech stacks of some of these law firms, and small to large, and individual lawyers, is the tech stack is non-existent. It is literally an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document, or like just like sitting down with someone for a few hours to talk, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Someone just showed me some notes from a partner of hers, and she was like, "Yeah, this was a partner's interview with one of my clients." I was like, "That's hieroglyphics." Like, can you imagine how many hours that took to just translate?
Insane.
So there's a way to make their work easier,
Yep.
their life's easier, but also you as the couple and consumer's life easier in terms of what you're going to put in. And then on the back end for the lawyer, there's a CRM, which a lot of lawyers haven't used in the past. There is the ability to look at other prenups that they've executed that are similar, so they can basically pull from them. And there's drafting agents that can help. So the idea is that historically, if a prenup took 10 to 20 hours, we can basically cut that time in half, but you still have the quality
And the human
of
in the
lawyer
loop as well.
110% to talk about the nuances.
Yeah.
And then to be able to have like the right person in the room with you instead of being matched with someone you don't vibe with.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Couple other questions.
Yeah.
So the podcast is clearly, pulling double duty, I feel like, as content engine for the company, but then also, when you look at the funnel,
Yeah.
someone listens to an episode, like what is the path to becoming a customer? And then was that intentional day one for the podcast to kind of have this multi-pronged purpose?
Yeah. So the podcast was actually born out of the fact that I originally, when I thought this was going to be a direct to consumer company, I had been working with somebody else to bring the company to life. We no longer are working together. And during the time when we were separating, there was an opportunity for me to get to know more people and to talk to more people who had either been divorced going through the marriage track and or lawyers. And I was like, how do I bring these conversations that I'm having one-on-one to the masses? Because if everybody could hear these people's stories, there's no world in which people wouldn't be getting prenups, right? So yet again, just because you build a product does not mean people will come. That is why the podcast is so important. I want to share as many different people's stories as I can and connect it to so many different things, because the reality is like prenups pop up in so many different ways, and they're just, they just make total sense. And so as you know, I've had forensic accountants on, I've had lawyers on, I've had founders that unfortunately have gone through breakups where they end up owing their partner a significant amount
Yeah.
without a prenup. I've had sexologists on. I've had like erotic writers on. Trying to bring the story from every different lens to the audience.
And if people are interested in telling their stories, how can they find you?
LinkedIn, Instagram,
Okay.
DM. Some of my best guests have literally just DM'd me on LinkedIn after hearing somebody else on the pod.
Okay, awesome.
Mm.
All right, we're going to rapid fire now.
Okay.
Okay. Prenup equals trust or prenup equals doubt?
Trust.
Okay. If someone asks you to sign a prenup 2 weeks before the wedding, do you sign it?
No.
Okay. Most underrated clause nobody puts in a prenup but should.
Balancing whoever stays home to take care of the kids, a way to compensate them.
Okay. Biggest green flag in a partner that has nothing to do with romance.
Financial stability.
What's one question every couple should ask before getting engaged that almost nobody asks?
Ooh, that's a good one. God, I have so many. So now I have to pick one.
Just pick one.
Actually, it's not even about the couple. It's, would you ever want to be divorced from this person, right? Never marry somebody that you're scared to get divorced from.
Good one. Okay. Last question. What's something that Lily Donahue's own prenup would say?
So much. Poor sucker.
Okay.